All right, from the student Fairfax City, we are very grateful that Paul Ellis accepted our invitation at our show. Paul, welcome to my humble podcast.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased.
No problem. Well, let's go back to beginning your life. How did you start in music and to begin with? Were you born like in a musical family? Were you taking piano lesson, guitar lesson at the time? What?
I didn't particularly grow up in a musical family. My dad was more into sports, but I have a sister who's 15 years older than me, and from a very young age, she played some of the best music for me, like the stuff in the 60s and 70s, Crosby, Stills and Nash, Moody Blues, Led Zeppelin, all that stuff. So, and she played flute, and she would play along with like Moody Blues and Jethro Tull. And occasionally my mom would play church hymns, but but not really a musical family. So I was very self-motivated, and I started with an Allen string classical guitar. I played a little bit of classical and a little bit of ragtime, various things. And so I was self-motivated to learn it.
Gotcha. You remember your first exposure to electronic music to begin with?
Oh, yeah, very much so. I was mentioning earlier that the first album I ever had that was predominantly electronic was Kraftwerk, Audubon in 1974, which I loved that album, but it didn't like inspire me to create this music. That was about 3 years later in 77. And I got Stratosphere by Tangerine Dream, Mirage by Klaus Schulze, Snowflakes Are Dancing by Tomita, and Jean-Michel Jarre, Oxygen, all within like a couple days. And it absolutely stretched my mind further than any other music had. And at that point, I was absolutely determined that at some point I would start collecting synthesizers and be able to create this music. But at that point, it was really prohibitively expensive. So it was a few years after that I started.
I got you. So you knew back then that you wanted to be, when you were in high school, that you wanted to be like a musician as opposed to, pick a different career or so?
Oh, yeah. And like I said, I was extremely attracted to what synthesizers could do because, by now they're everywhere. But back then it was a rare thing, and one sound could turn into another one in a way that a guitar or a piano could not do. So I was absolutely fascinated with how you can make these sound worlds. And I even knew at that point that, I would get there. I was in a few rock bands and, wrote some songs. But it wasn't until I got a synthesizer that I could really focus on what I wanted to do.
Any pressure from your family about your dad? Hey, forget about music. You're not going to make any money. If you want to get married, go to law school, become a doctor or something, or you were free to pick your own path in life, if you will.
The last one, they were very, very kind to me. They didn't particularly like my mom. Well, see, basically, I'm an oops. My dad was 48 and my mom was 46 when I was born. They were like World War II generations. They did not like rock, but they didn't put restrictions on me. They didn't say, you can't listen to that, you can't do that. They were always very supportive, although uninterested.
Good. And then how you end up getting your first synthesizer to begin with? A used one, I imagine, right? Probably.
Actually, no. At this point, I was with my first wife, and I was working in a paper mill, and Korg came out with a synthesizer at the time called the Poly 800, which was one oscillator. It was very thin sounding. It was probably the worst synth I've ever had, but it was great for learning on. So it was a great place to start. And then I got a DX100 after that, which was like a very, very small version of the DX7. And it was also somewhat laughable. But after that, I started getting much better synthesizers. And that's when it really started. But I don't really regret it because the Poly 800, as simple as it was, that's where I learned filters and envelopes and all the things, all the basis of synthesis.
Yeah. Is it easy for anybody without musical background to learn that? Or I mean, it's more tenacity, curiosity than having a background in music, like music theory or this or that.
Yes, but I would always recommend that people learn music to some degree. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
right now, I think there's a bunch of I don't know how to really say this, but there's like samples and preset loops and rhythms that you can kind of just throw them in a digital audio workstation and kind of have your music. But I think there's a point where it's kind of not really your music.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I do always recommend learning music first. It's important, but
Right.
that seems to be slipping a bit. But I don't want to be the old guy, you know, back in my day. I
Gotcha.
want to encourage people to learn however they learn, but I do think it's best to start with an acoustic instrument and learn the basics, then move on.
I gotcha. Nowadays, with AI tools,
Oh,
basically anybody could become a musician. Maybe a
yeah,
terrible musician, but you can create music, and
yeah. I'm not crazy about AI when it comes to music, but at the same time, it is a pretty incredible tool. Um, I don't know. At this point in my life, I would say again, learn music first.
I got you. I got you. I got you. Got you. Yeah. I never learned any music, but now I'm taking a couple of courses, and I wanna, I'm going to, well, I'm in the process of going to a couple times a week to a recording studio and learn the basic, and I'm going to be attending a couple of seminars at Real World Studios, the Peter Gabriel Studios in Bath. So I went there and going back to Bath again in July, and I'm going to be working with Peter in a couple of things that I cannot mention yet. But yeah, I know the people well, and I pitched a couple of ideas to Peter, and he was receptive. So we'll see where it goes. More managerial stuff than music. So I'm not going to,
That is
but
absolutely fantastic.
yeah, I got lucky because like I'm an engineer mentality, right? So I need to think. I'm always thinking about how things work, right? So for me, going to a lot of concerts was great. It still is. Buying a lot of music is great. Interviewing people is great. But I wanna really understand what makes a great record. Why you mic, the drums the certain way. What makes a great mixer. Why the person that is mastering the record should not be mixing the record at the same time because you are biased, and so on so forth. So I'm in the process of learning some music theory to really understand the stuff. I don't have any goal in mind. I want to learn more about it. I know where I'm going, but I don't know exactly where I will stop. So if music has given me so much satisfaction, so I need to understand why a particular engineer is very famous, whatever, Johnny Doe in the world, right? Um, and somebody would say, listen to the record, listen to the record. Yeah, the record is great. The music is great. Um, but how was record make? That's the technical aspect that Steely Dan is a good example. Those
Oh,
Steely
that's
Dan,
one of my
those are
favorite things.
every anybody walking down the street, whether you're classical rock, you put an Steely Dan, just listen to the record. And they say, man, this is a masterpiece. Nobody will deny that, right? How the
Yeah,
great records would make stuff like that, right? So unbelievable. Some bands are like that. And
they're one of my
and
favorite. Absolutely love them. And they were actually inspired when we're talking about engineering or
yeah,
mixing or mastering. They were inspired by a jazz recorder from the 50s named Rudy Van Gelder. I'm not sure if you're aware of him or not.
no, I wasn't aware of that. Yeah,
I'd say look into him because he was
yeah,
making very fine recordings at a very early stage. And that's part of why they sound so good.
yeah. They're unbelievable, man. And they were
Absolutely.
proficient hours and hours and hours. Some records they have like a 30 or 40 different musicians, so
Hmm.
one
Yeah.
drummer for track one, another drummer for track four, and
Yep.
for sure that was very expensive to make the record to begin with. So
But
so
that's because their focus was on they wanted to make the best sounding albums. You know, so
absolutely.
like It wasn't like I need a hot tub, I need a yacht, whatever. They weren't
Yeah,
as concerned with that as making great records, and I think
yeah,
that's why they sound so amazing.
yeah. It's amazing, man. Back in the day, I don't know if there are kind of two schools of synthesizers at the time, as far as I know. One was the Don Buchla one, and the other was the Moog or Moog. I don't know. I never know how to pronounce it. Both
That's
Buchla was in Germany. That Moog was here in the United States, right? I remember
Mhm.
listening to an album by Walter Carlos, right? Sorry, Wendy Carlos, when when that became Wendy. Unbelievable, unbelievable. That blew me away. That album was like, how in the world something like that can be made, And
Especially with the technology that she had at the time. It was really very primitive.
absolutely, absolutely. You need to take things in context. Nowadays, it'll be a lot easier, but we are talking about early 70s, how in the
Or
world
that
she, yeah,
late
yeah,
60s, I think.
or
Yeah.
68, I think, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, unbelievable. I don't know if you knew that record growing up. I'm quite sure
Yeah.
everybody knew that record, right? So,
Oh yeah. In fact, I forgot to mention it, but it did also. I didn't own it, but I checked it out from the library. That original Switched on Bach, and it was
yeah,
another one that was very early, and it just completely blew my mind. Um, and I love all her work all the way down.
yeah,
Um, yeah, an amazing synthesist. And also, I was mentioning earlier, Tomita, another
yeah, to
one
me,
where
yeah.
um, absolutely primitive gear, but somehow able to pull magic out of it.
Yeah, I tried to get a hold of Wendy some years ago, and the same. She's very reclusive and no interviews, and
Yeah. No.
it was tough for me to accept a no more than one occasion. Although I
Yeah,
tried different venues. Yeah,
that's just one of her aspects. She's a very private person.
yeah,
And also it might be better because she's also very reactive, and she's been known to get really angry when a question is not framed the way she wants it. So
yeah,
it might be better that way.
yeah. I was told before that I would need to send the question ahead of time because she doesn't like
Mm,
surprises, and
yeah.
I admire her one that because she was a pioneer
Oh yeah.
and a woman, right? So it's double whammy there. It's unbelievable. It's that record make big impact on me. And of course, I have all her music and I have everything she ever done, and I have versions from different countries as well. The cover in the Japanese pressing was different from the one in the United States. So, and I don't know. She's unbelievable lady. The way she does. Um, you knew at the time growing up. I mean, you mentioned Jean-Michel Jarre. What about it was Klaus Schulze or
Oh yeah. Early
Bauman of the
favorite.
World,
I think.
or Manuel Goshin, Astro Temple?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Actually, I came to Asher Temple late in life, but they're one of my favorites. Uh, Klaus Schulze, though, has remained my favorite. The early Peter era is, to me,
yeah,
fantastic, and the Schmeling, and even beyond that a little bit. I wasn't as crazy about the saxophone and bongo era, but
yeah,
Klaus Schulze kind of kept the visionary aspect all the way down the line. He didn't really, I don't, he never had a pop album.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, it's it's too bad that he passed away. But Tangerine Dream, they keep on going. Different flavor, different composition, and a lot of people laugh, and the master passed away, but they're still touring, and they have done a lot of great with. And Tangerine Dream, there's so many film score, unbelievable, unbelievable.
I think Edgar did a good job in choosing his successor, Thornton. I think he
Yeah,
was a good choice on the
absolutely.
name.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Have the interview to interview
I have
all
a
of them.
funny,
Go ahead,
pardon? Oh,
go
I was
ahead.
just going to say, I have kind of a funny story about Klaus Schulze. In '91, I released an album called Secret Fire. And about the same time, I sent a couple copies, one to Keyboard Magazine and one to Klaus Schulze with a letter saying how much I admired his work, and he was very inspiring. And then I forgot about it because it was like, I can't remember if it was 6 or 9 months later, a review appeared in Keyboard Magazine. And one of the things I'm pretty proud of is that I was one of the very first, well, back then they would call it New Age. I've never been crazy about that title, but anyway, I was one of the first people they gave a positive review to for a New Age album. I thought it was great. And in that same issue, they completely trashed the Dresden performance. So a few months after that, I got this letter, and it was like 5 pages, single spaced. It was this huge letter. I don't know how to explain to you how like angry it was, but it was talking about I should be disemboweled and all these things. I mean, just horrible, horrible stuff. He was so angry because I got a good review and he got a bad review, and it was signed Klaus. Well, a little later on, I wound up working with, so I thought it was Klaus Schulze, and it was, for a couple months, it was difficult for me to listen to his music, but I went, you know what, I like his music, whatever. And I went back and listened to it. So then several years later, I worked with Steve Roach. He knows Klaus personally. He goes, oh no, Klaus is very nice. He couldn't have written that. That was Klaus, Klaus, I forget, Klaus Schulze's manager. Klaus, I'm sorry, I forget the name, but he's also named Klaus.
Oh, I see.
And he was known to rip into people very hard. In fact, he was known to do interviews for Klaus Schulze. Like when Keyboard Magazine would send the questions out, Klaus, I wish I could remember the name. I'm very sorry. But anyway, it turned out it was his manager and not Klaus. So that made me feel a lot better.
Who will do something like that? What's wrong with a person?
He was known to be very jealous of Klaus. He didn't particularly like space music, but he was Klaus's manager. And anytime, my understanding is that he would be pretty brutal with people. And I can attest to that.
Yeah, at least you have the letter to prove it,
Yeah. Steve said that Klaus Schulze is very kind and very nice. So that was a relief.
Yeah. You mentioned Steve Roach. He's a very nice guy, man. Unbelievable musician. He's very, very nice person, so good for who that have the opportunity to interview him, and he always send me records, and so I'm very, very happy to be that. So you mentioned that in the mid-eighties you bought your first few things were multi-track, and because at the time it was they were very expensive. You were working, you got married, and you didn't have $200 or whatever it cost you the first one, but to spend that. But I'm glad that you kept your promise, in the back of your head. You said, eventually I will get there, and you did, man. Good for you, man. Good for you.
It's difficult to explain, but I just somehow knew that I was going to go there. I heard it, and there was sort of a sense of familiarity that I can't really put into words. But like, I know this, I'm going to do this. In fact, after getting those 4 records I mentioned earlier, my father was a professor of science, and he would take classes up to Michigan for his conservation class. And I would tag along, and they would go off in one direction doing their thing, and I would go off in another direction. And I remember after hearing these albums, just sitting in this sort of garden space. And I mean, I don't know how to say this, but I could hear music in my head. I could hear, and it was like somehow reflected by all the plants and the natural beauty that was surrounding me. And I was like, I have to get this out. I have to do this, I didn't get that. I mean, I love rock. I love jazz, all that stuff. But I never got that kind of interior music from hearing them. I got it from space music or electronic music.
I got you. Good for you, because eventually, you need to become what you were supposed to do in life. Some people can get there faster or not, but in general, what was the learning curve at the beginning to become proficient as a musician? Because I imagine when I don't know, in your case, keyboards, you're better, you think you're better, your friends are telling you they're getting better, but the professional would say, man, you're not there yet, man. Don't release any music yet. Keep, stay in the basement of your house, keep doing your thing, right? So when you knew that you were kind of ready to take your first record out to the market and sort of expose yourself
Oh,
to,
one that I would admit to.
yeah, yeah,
um, I started in '85 was when I got that Korg Poly 800,
yeah,
and it was a very steep learning curve for me at the time. But I did eventually get the basics, and I
yeah.
did put out a couple albums, just like a cassette release. It was nothing really. Two of them, and I'm really glad that they are not there anymore. Nobody knows about them because they were not there yet. And I kind of knew it, but I was like, I'm gonna keep doing this until I get it.
Yeah.
The first album that I would admit to was the one I was telling about in '91. It was called Secret Fire. That's the one that I sent off to Keyboard Magazine and Klaus Schulze.
Got it.
And I
Good for
felt
you.
like, okay, no, this is okay. I'm getting close. I got a ways to go yet, but I'm getting close.
Yeah. At the time, you were not part of a record label, right? You did everything on kind of on your own, and eventually your vinyl self-release, that type of thing.
Well, what it was the first albums were just me recording and duping cassettes. It was nothing. I
Yeah,
mostly just gave them to friends. But the first label I was on was out of Portland, Oregon, and it was called New Weave Records. That's the one that
yeah,
the Secret Fire came out on.
I got it. I got it.
And then after that, there was another Portland record label called Hypnos. Not
Yeah.
sure if you know of Hypnos.
No,
Okay, yeah,
no,
well,
no.
we got a couple things on that. It was a good label. It was very ambient, but the owner, Mike Griffin, wanted to expand out, and he created a sub-label called Binary for more sequencer or rhythmic-based music.
Yeah,
So that's what we were on.
I got you. Yeah, I'm very familiar with Spotted Pickery, and I have interviewed a lot of people from the record label. Very well-run place, very nice people. Always, every month they send me music. I've been very grateful to them, and so it's a great company. Great, there's a lot of great musicians involved with that record
Yeah.
label, right? So, and
I'd give
so
a I'd give a special mention to oh boy, I'm blanking again. I'm so sorry.
okay,
The guy that mixed the music there, or he mastered the music, I should say, is very, very, very good. Howard
yeah,
Gibbons.
yeah.
There we go. He's
Howard,
very
yeah,
good at mastering.
good,
And he
good,
was the
yeah,
first one that I was aware of that would put out releases in 24-bit, so you could hear it in really higher resolution.
yeah, yeah. That's great. Forgot the name of the lady who ran that place, man.
Uh,
Beth, I think. Yeah.
Deborah,
Def.
yeah,
Gibbons could be.
Deborah Gibbons, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, she's very grateful to that. They always help me with that. I mean, out. And in general terms, electronic music has always occupied like a small percentage on their own music market, right? How is it in general terms to make a living as a musician? Because fewer and fewer people buy music, so you can be the best in town in what you do, but still, it's very difficult to make a movie a living as a musician in your genre because not many people like electronic music, or maybe a small percentage that like electronic music as opposed to a rock and roll band, right? So
Yeah,
how
it
difficult
is.
could that be?
It is extremely difficult, especially if, I mean, I don't know what title you prefer, but Berlin School or Space Music,
Yeah,
in any of those titles, it's extremely difficult to make money doing it. It's just a very small genre.
yeah,
And even as far back as I think it was 2010, I came out with an album called Sacred Ordinary. And that's from the Groove Unlimited, the Dutch label.
yeah,
And I remember the day it was released, I went online and I looked, and there weren't many hits. There were a few hits, but not many. And then the day after it was released, I saw hundreds of Russian sites selling it. So I called up, or I mean, I talked to Ron Boats and I said, hey, my music's really getting taken here. And he says, there's nothing I can do because it's Russia. They have different laws and there's really nothing I can do. But I remember at that point really realizing how little a percentage of that I'm going to make from my music. I don't resent like Russians for this, but it was disappointing. And it's even gotten worse, much worse.
Because right now, as you know, Spotify, man, you need to have like 1 million hits to get $10 to get a cup of coffee or something, right? As opposed to Bandcamp, that I think 90% goes to you, right? They only take 10%.
Well, not quite 90, but it's much better than anywhere else. Definitely, it's my favorite. Unfortunately for me, I did not think this through very well. I have my own Bandcamp site, which is, I suppose, more fan based, But I'm also on this Groove Unlimited Bandcamp site and the Cyclical Dreams Bandcamp site.
Cyclical Dreams, yeah.
So it's kind of confusing. Yeah, so kind of confusing for people. They'll go to my site thinking that's where my major albums are, but it's really more like Groove Unlimited. That's where my main albums are.
I got it. What's your take on Spotify? Everybody knows that it's a ripoff, but what can be done there? I mean,
I don't know. If I knew, I would be on it. But I mean, I have some music up on Spotify, and it does bring in some money, but certainly not enough to retire on. I mean, there's nothing, absolutely nothing.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine that if all the musicians out there in the world get together, they should complain, either you pay us better or we take our music and the business model will disappear. But unfortunately, all musicians, they don't get together to complain and argue about that stuff because it's a ripoff. For me, it's great in what I mean by that. So I pay like $10 a month or whatever, right? And I have exposure to thousands of records, right? Millions of records, right? In all genres, because I'm always looking for new bands. I'm always looking for new way to do things, and bands that broke up and they formed another band. So I'm always, for me, it's a great, great tool. But I'm willing to pay a lot more, right? From $10 to $30, whatever, a month, as long as the delta, the $20 in my example, where to go to the musician. So
most people don't feel that
they don't do that, huh?
I was going to say most people don't feel that way though. That shows me you got some integrity. Most people just want it cheap as they can get it.
I don't understand what people think the music should be free. I mean, when you go to a restaurant, the bill is not free, right? You go to a supermarket, you need to pay the bill, right? Go to a movie, you need to pay. Why people think that because the music should be free? I don't understand that.
Well, actually, I think the only music that should be free is the music that's created by AI.
I'm with you on that. Right?
Yeah. But I can't explain it. It's just the world we live in. But you know what? I mean, I'm not stopping. I'm going to continue to release music. I get a little bit of money in, but I work at the library. I have a day job, but it's not going to, the low pay is not going to stop me because that is not my motive. My motive is to create sound spaces that can take people into, like, if you don't mind the phrase, an interior world and, more imaginative, like a rock song or whatever. It's got lyrics. It's got a very solid theme. It means this. Whereas with space music or Berlin School, there's no solidity to it. It could mean anything to anybody. So you're free to have it mean to you what it means to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And music, personally, without being a musician, has given me so much satisfaction. Like that's the best way I can explain it. That's what I buy a lot of music. I support a lot of record. I told you before the channels, the profit go to charities. Because I feel great doing that kind of stuff, So we live in crazy time, in the world, and I don't know, maybe we're doomed. We'll destroy ourselves. Music probably and books are one of or the
Well, I
libraries.
actually appreciate that about you. I appreciate that you donate that money to charity. It tells
No
me you got a
problem,
lot
right?
of integrity.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Yeah, I always knew that I want to do that. Why should I benefit? If you're giving me an hour of your time, I should get paid for that. If I like talking to musicians of the world and having that, the interview go to radios or the YouTube channel for people to appreciate the stuff. It's never about me, it's about the artist, or so um no, I have any ego at all and about I always knew that I wanted to donate the stuff. Um, you formed Tribal Machine with your friend Jeff. Feel free to elaborate on that. That's a obscure
Yeah,
band that very few people in the world know that.
very few, and that's actually before Secret Fire, the one I was telling you. That's
I
the
see.
first one I do. I really haven't had anybody. I still, I mean, I'm fond of it in that it was a sort of an evolutionary step forward for me musically. But no, I was still not there yet. Jeff or I, neither one of us were there yet. And Jeff actually came with me over into another band. We met this guy named Dave Fulton, and he was very keen on getting a band going. So we formed Dweller at the Threshold with the three of us.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, that actually stayed more myself and Dave. Jeff left, so but he's really more of a painter. He and his wife are actually really great painters. They're very good artists. But he had a great sense, aesthetic, I suppose. Um, but yeah, so Dave and I carried on with Dwell at the Threshold, which apparently is getting some attention again. Some people I've seen talk of it where I didn't for a very long time.
yeah. Good for you, man. Are you the type of guy that like to read critics about your own music, or you avoid that kind of, because if they're great, that's great, but if they're bad, how you respond to that? I mean, you do the stuff independently of what people think about it, right? Because it's something that you want to do yourself, right? So
Yeah,
you have no
I'm
choice,
not
right?
going to be.
Music pick you.
Yeah,
Music choose you, right? So
exactly. They're not going to move me one way or the other as far as it's. If I got a horrible review, it wouldn't stop me from recording it.
yeah,
The only thing that really annoys me is when they get something factually incorrect,
I
either about
see.
the music or for a long while I lived in Vancouver, Washington, and
Gotcha.
claimed to be a Canadian artist because of the word Vancouver. Um, I mean, factually incorrect stuff does annoy me. I got to be honest, but if
Yeah.
I can pick out if a critique is honest and it's good, that's
Mm.
actually helpful. It's very helpful. I
Right.
I mean, I don't need to be surrounded by yes men.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's nice to get a comment or review, but it's not necessary. And if I can find good advice or a good observation in a critique, a bad critique, if you want
Right.
to call it that, I'm happy actually, because then I'll adjust if they're right. Because I'm inside my head. I can't hear my music objectively. I created it. I remember how it was made or what happened. It's very difficult to be objective. And sometimes people can put their finger on something that you were just blind to. So I'll take that.
Sure. Absolutely. I just it's not what you say sometimes, the way you say things, right? Uh,
That too. Yeah.
that it takes the same effort to be a nice person or an ass in the world, right? Why being an ass if you can be a nice person? I don't know. That's my way of looking at
That's
the
a,
world, I suppose. Your
that's a
music
very
has
good
been,
question.
no, your music has been in a way hard to identify because you have touches of French impressionism, German electronic music, Berlin
Oh yeah.
minimal, Indian raga style, which if you put everything together, you shake it up, and that's your music. Obviously, I listened to your old stuff last night when I was putting questions for the interview, and the later stuff. It's evolved, it's different, but it's great. I mean, it's your life, and you like what you did in 1994 or 2015, whatever it happened to be, and It's great. It's great music, man. Yeah, good for
I
you.
appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah.
Good for you to be. Go ahead.
Oh, actually, I forgot what I was going to say now. But I appreciate that. I do put a lot of effort. I put a lot of work into my music.
Yeah.
So it is nice when someone, I'll be honest, it's nice when someone says something complimentary. But as far as it changing my view of myself or my music, I'm on the path that I'm on.
I got it. Yeah.
So, yeah.
How many records or or contributed to other people or with other band have you done? You might have close to 100.
Boy, I don't know. I don't, since you included work I've done with other people's
Right.
music, it's a lot. It's a lot. And actually, if you look at my Bandcamp site, you'll notice that
Yeah.
I do have one album that is, I hesitate on calling it classical guitar because classical guitar is usually a different composer. I'm writing it. Plus,
Gotcha.
I'll put various studio effects like echo or reverb on a guitar part.
Yeah.
It's more like what I learned from progressive rock, where you don't
I see.
shy away from modern techniques, but you
Yeah.
write it with the feeling of classical music. I've also got a couple projects I've worked.
Then you get frozen a little bit.
I think we've
Yeah.
got.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, to me, the quality of popular music peaked in the late 60s and early 70s. That was my favorite era for popular music. Like, I would say big influences are Simon and Garfunkel, Steely Dan, Al Stewart. There's so many. Those were meant to be like, I'm taking a break from space music. I'm not abandoning it, but I'm want to try something else. Maybe that will inform the space music later. But yeah, I've got a couple albums under the name Nectarine, and there's a couple albums under the name Pop Archaeology Transmission. And I've worked on a lot of other people. As far as my own work, I recently counted, and I think it was 40 plus albums of my work, of the space music.
Have you? I didn't check, but did you ever play live?
Oh, yeah. I'm actually getting ready to play. They're having a tribute to Klaus Schulze concert in Portland in August, and I'm preparing for that.
All
I don't play out
right.
much. Like
Yeah.
I said, I live way up in the mountains. It takes me about an hour and a half to drive to Portland. So
I got it. I got it.
mostly I'm recording, but in this case, I was like, oh yeah, I'm in. I'll do it.
Yeah. You guys plan on doing an announcement on Facebook, social media? Who else is going to be there besides you? Is Steve Roach there as well, or Greg
Oh no,
Padilla,
no,
or
no. They're Portland musicians. So excuse
Portland?
me.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you know them. Oh, do you know who Daryl Gretsch is? He goes
No.
by the band name of Pulse Theater.
Yeah. By
He goes by
the
Pulse Theater.
yeah.
Yeah. So a few that you might know their names, but more
Yeah.
local Portland.
Good for you, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
good for you. Should be interesting to. Hopefully, they will. I don't know if you plan on recording that or somewhere, or
I'm going to try to.
you know,
I'm going to try. I don't know how. If the quality's good, I'll put it up on
if the
YouTube or
quality is good,
something.
right? Put it out there
Yeah.
for the fans
Yeah.
to listen to Klaus again.
Oh,
And I was listening to the album from Out of the Bass Camp's Nearness. That's a very good album, man.
which one?
I
Sorry,
think
which one?
the album was from Out of the Bass Camp's Nearness.
Oh, yeah.
That's what the first thing that
That's
I
one of my
listened for
favorites.
you in Spotify, right? So
Oh, nice. That's one of my favorites. Also, if I can throw these out, have you
yeah.
heard? I'm throwing these out because I would like to send you some links. And I don't know
Thank
what
you
you've
very
heard.
much.
But like, have you heard Sacred Ordinary or
No, no, I have no.
Silent Conversations?
The silent conversationalism,
Okay.
the ordinary one, I have not. Right.
Okay. Both of them had some work with Steve Roach. There's another one more recent called Rainforest and Pavement.
I have not heard that one yet. Yeah,
I'll
I need
definitely
to
send
give that
that
a
one.
list. Thank you very
Yeah,
much. I appreciate it.
it's a more recent one, and it's a favorite. I really like that. Or um, let's see, Color the Mind. Have you heard Color the Mind?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I have heard that one. Yeah.
And then there's five. I saw a picture of the Cascade Mountain Range, and you could see all five of the major mountains here in Washington.
Yeah.
And it's called Five Bliss Machines on the Infinite Stage. Have you heard that one?
Yeah. No, I have not. Unfortunately, you need to send me some stuff so I can listen
Oh,
to
yeah.
when I drive to work. And that's a very good album. That's the first time. The first thing I listened to you, that was on Spotify, not on Bandcamp. And then I went to Bandcamp and I started cross-referencing all your stuff. And it's very good music, man. You're very good at what you do, man.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
You know,
Appreciate
it's great. The other album that I really like, the work you have done with Per Tobaf, right?
Oh, yeah.
The Greek myth of Orpheus, and that's a very good. How do you want to meeting him and working with him? He lives in Europe, right?
Yeah, he lives in Denmark.
In Denmark. So
And we kind of bumped into each other through a mutual friend who we're going to work on the three of us doing an album, but he bowed out. So, but then Per and I decided, well, let's continue on here. I like it. And I was actually unaware of him until, that meeting. But yeah, I'm very happy with that album too.
yeah. And how you guys work? You sending files back and forth, and you were working that part. He worked with another part. Hey, it didn't work out. Let's do it together, and then we glue it together and go back and forth. It's because hard to
Typically,
do it
what would happen
over
is,
the internet. Right?
yeah, typically what would happen is like, let's just say I started a piece and let's
Yeah.
just say it's 15 minutes long. I would tell them, okay, the beats per minute is 120 or whatever. Here are the key changes. These, just basic information. And then he would put it in his digital audio workstation and then get it the right beat, or sorry, the right tempo, the correct key changes. And then he would add things and send it back to me. And rarely more than, each one of us doing a pass. There was a couple where there was like 3 or 4 passes, but yeah, that's typically how it was done.
I got you. Do you plan on continue working with him? I mean, a question a lot of people have asked you, hey, can we do a part 2 and a part 3 and a part 4?
Yeah.
Because that album, I imagine that's very popular, right?
Yeah. I'm very happy with it.
Yeah, good for you.
We definitely plan on it, but right now he's having some health issues, so we're just waiting. We're waiting until he feels better. But yeah, we definitely both plan on doing another one.
All right, that will be great. I'm looking forward to listen to the stuff that is in any part. The one of the latest one, the one for March 2025, Warns from Other Suns. That's a very good album, man. I really like this stuff. Very good, very good.
Oh, good. I'm glad you like it. I have another one coming up. Ron Boats, who runs Groove Unlimited, will be releasing one called Here Is Where. And that one is a little heavier. It's more like Berlin School. Sometimes I hate saying that because there are some people doing Berlin School and they're copying almost exactly an album that already exists from one of these bands. And I have to have my fingerprint of individuality on it, but it certainly is inspired by it, no question.
Yeah.
But that one, I really like that one. It's a little heavier. And in fact, the last piece, which is the 7th piece, is about, I think, 24 minutes long. That one also has Per's contributions on it.
I got you, I got you. And
So I'll make
then
sure you get it.
are all this, they're going to be just in a digital format, or people can buy, CDs or vinyl? Nowadays, it's hard to, fewer people buy physical thing, but
I'm old school. I happen to like physical media because
I like the same here, right?
yeah, because one big solar flare and all the digital stuff will be gone. So I like having physical copies.
Yeah, plus you can help the artists, buying physical
Yeah.
things, so it's as I mentioned, that's a very, very good album. And also I noticed the compilation that you have, I think you call it 6 of 1, volume 1, 2, and 3, both the three, then that's the one that I end up buying, I think. And they are very, very good.
The 6 of 1.
6 of 1,
I don't
volume
know if
one,
you're
I think.
familiar with the phrase, but there's an American phrase, 6 of 1, half dozen the other, meaning,
Yeah,
but what
that's
it
right.
is it's sort of like my favorite pieces from my first 6 albums. So it's like from 2000 to I think it's 2012. Um, I was going to send you 2 and 3 because I saw that you got one.
Thank you
Two
very
is my favorite. Two is my
I got it.
favorite. I'll make sure
Yeah.
you get those.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. That's
Yeah.
that's great music. That's great music. So you're working on that one, and the one that you mentioned before, when do you plan on releasing that? Is that during the summer? I mean, this year? Or?
Yeah, Ron said it'll be out sometime in June, so not very far away.
Right. How do you record music? I mean, music comes to you, or after work you say, or Saturday morning you tell your wife or significant other, man, today I want to write the best piece of music ever written by myself. How the music get into your head before you go to the basement and you begin playing with keyboard and sequencer and put it what? Or it can be a different time. You are at work, you write something
It's hard to
down.
sometimes I'll even hum something into the recorder in my phone. If I get an idea, I'll hum something.
Yeah,
But not that often. Usually how I do it is I collect patches, I make patches and I'll like, okay, I want to use these in this piece. And I'll just start off improvising. There are a couple different camps in Berlin School or space music. One is digital audio workstation and fairly well thought out. And the other side is improvisation, just spur of the moment. And I tend
yeah,
to blend both. I typically start by I'll have those patches I was telling you about, those
yeah,
sounds, and I start playing until something catches my ear, and then I like okay, I'll develop that, go
yeah,
on, and then I'll improvise a whole section. But what I think makes me different than some is that I'll go back once I listen to it a few times and I get familiar with if you want to say the geography of the piece. This part goes up, this part goes down. Then I'll go back and add extra elements to enhance it. And I'm pretty critical of what I add. If it isn't adding what to my ears would be like a kind of a magic or there's something special,
yeah.
I can be very brutal. What's that saying? Kill your darlings.
That's
If
right.
there, sometimes there's a part that I add that individually by itself, it's great, it's amazing, but it isn't adding to the piece. It's sort of detracting, sort of distracting from the piece. And I'll get
Yeah,
rid of that. But so I do both like a more well thought out composition style or approach and also improvisation. They work together to me.
I got it. And you're always recording, whether you end up using that
Oh yeah.
or not. You're always recording, right? No.
Always working. I don't keep everything, but I'm always working and I'm always generating pieces. Oh, I heard a songwriter once say this and I thought, oh, that's perfect. That's exactly how I do it. And I had never thought of expressing it that way before. But the songwriter says, well, I'll write a song and then I'll throw it in this heap on the mixing board. And then I start noticing that they form gangs. In other words, some pieces go together and they fit together really well. And then I find those and then I'll make an album.
That's that's a
Does that
great way
make
to put
sense?
it. Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And if you're working in something, a new album, and you like to go this way and the tempo this way, and you mentioned before, you can create something that it doesn't fit the album, but you want to save it because
Oh,
down
yeah.
the road you can revisit the unused, things or unused tracks, and then maybe trying to glue them together, or
Mhm.
you know, uh, a deluxe box or deluxe CD or for fans only or whatever. You can send the stuff, and then some of them it could be good, right? So it's good to be in the habit of recording stuff. Then again, your hard drive and the space. Eventually, you need to
Fortunately, they're
start
now
deleting
up.
this.
Yeah. Fortunately, hard drives are in the terabytes now, so we
No,
have a
yeah,
lot more flexibility of keeping things. But yeah, sometimes I'll hear something that I really like about a piece, but it doesn't really fit the album that I'm working on. So I'll just, put it aside. And then at a later point, there's other pieces that might fit with it, or I write extensions to it. You know,
gotcha.
if I feel like there's something good in a piece, I won't throw it away.
Yeah.
I,
Sure. How you determine what is the trade-off between doing everything on your own or collaborating with other people? Johnny, Peter, or Mary of this world email you, hey, Paul, I listened to this album from 2015, whatever. I'm such and such. Would you like to work with me in a couple of things that I'm working on? How people get a hold of you? How you collaborate with people?
usually, like on my albums, I'll put a contact email address,
Yeah,
some way of getting a hold of me. And when they do that, I'll go and listen to their,
yeah,
and I think it's compatible. Yeah. Been a few people that just started and really not there yet, which it's not fun to say no, but I do know when to say no.
yeah,
I've worked with several people, Ron Boats, Atso Pakarinen, who's a Finnish prog rocker,
yeah.
Paul Nagel, so on and so forth. And I when you write it by yourself, you sort of right. Um, and when you work with someone else, even if there are differences, I'll be able to go, yeah, okay, I hadn't thought of approaching it that way, but that's good. I like that. So working with other people always brings a certain amount of objectivity. And
Sure.
oh, I didn't think that. So
Yeah.
I like doing both.
Yeah. And you need to like the person that you're working with. Otherwise, the project is not going anywhere. Hey, I don't
Yeah,
like your stuff. Change that. And so it gotta be chemistry between the two of
it's
them or three of them, whatever, right? To work together in a
yeah.
particular album. Otherwise, it's not productive. And
For the most part, I do like the people I work with, and
yeah,
also, a fairly large number of them. I've been aware of them, and I've been in conversations with them for some time before
I
that
see.
comes up, and I already know. Oh, I like this guy. Sure, but there have been two that it didn't. The
The
chemistries are
chemistry
very,
wasn't
very
there or
different.
whatever issues or like it's like
Yeah,
people say, mention all the time, oh, that particular band it broke up or whatever. It's very difficult to do with 4 or 5 people and stay together for 10, 15 years and some people wanna be independent. Oh, I wanna do a solo record because my stuff doesn't fit the band or whatever. It's very difficult.
mhm.
Gary, being married to someone,
If you
one
think of
person is hard. Being married to 5 people and touring it's even harder, I think, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly. If you know, I think there's two different approaches. One is like, I'm just going to basically say the rock approach, where you're in a band and the ideal is to have that one band stays together like Queen. Think of Queen. They didn't
Yeah,
really have any new members. Um,
that's right.
but then there's the jazz approach, which like Coltrane played with how many people? You know, the jazz is more fluid in the
Mm,
lineups of musicians. And I think that's
yeah,
where Steely Dan got that concept. But rock or pop or maybe even country, it tends to be here's the band forever. And
that's right.
that seems to be some kind of ideal. That doesn't always
Yeah,
work out either.
yeah. Good for you, man. Yeah, sometimes it's very hard for you. So you mentioned you're going hopefully, during that particular tribute to Klaus Schulze, and then any possibility of touring here in the United States and
Um,
cities, or it's hard?
Part of me really likes that idea, but part of me is an old guy who wants to stay home.
I
I
understand it.
I've never had, like, if I had large audiences and it was like financially worthwhile, where I wouldn't lose, my bank account just to do this.
Yeah.
I'd kind of do it, but
Yeah.
it doesn't seem that way. It doesn't seem like it's ever going to be that way. I am not a teeny bopper that will, the girls will be screaming for.
Yeah. Plus, but electronic music is hard because the equipment you need to transport everything. If you're a guy, good-looking guy playing the guitar, you take the guitar and go from city to city, right? But in electronic music, that's another story altogether because you have a lot of equipment, and it's not as straightforward. You take only one keyboard, right, and that's it, right? And you use your computer, and so it
Yeah,
becomes more hardware-wise, more expensive to
yeah.
travel with, right, or drive with.
I've always thought, yeah, for this kind of music, I've always thought that the Tangerine Dream model of three musicians was best. One guy could take care of the sequencer, one guy could play the melodies, one guy
Yeah,
could do the atmospherics. When
yeah,
just you, it's hard. It's so hard to, most of the people I know that do it with one person do have to have some kind of either a loaded up sequencer with the music or some kind of pre-recorded thing to play along with. Also
yeah,
not ideal, but until space music becomes a big thing, the ability to
yeah.
do that kind of touring is very limited.
Yeah, gotcha. No, absolutely, man. Feel free to mention where people that are listening to this podcast and can buy your music and help you out, can contribute.
Well, I would say the main one I would say is Groove Unlimited, the Dutch label.
Yeah,
That's got the majority of my good work. There's, like, as you know, there's the 3 albums on Spotted Peccary.
yeah,
There is about 4 or 5 albums on Cyclical Dreams, which is an Argentinian label,
correct. Yeah,
and a couple on Hypnos. I think my first one was actually on Noi Harmony, which is a
yeah,
British label. That you got the six of one, the first one, right?
correct. Yeah,
Yeah, that's one. The Noi Harmony album is called Appears to Vanish, and I'm still really fond of that one, although the cover art is pretty horrific to my taste. I didn't like it, but the music
gotcha.
I'd still say recommend.
Yeah, yeah. So people can listen to your music on Spotify, so you can get $5 to get a cup of coffee, and hopefully buy your music on Bandcamp and the other places you mentioned, so they can help you out a little bit. It's tough to make a living as a musician, man. Very difficult. I mean, I'm a
Especially
consumer
now,
of your product, but I know it's very difficult, man.
it is very difficult.
And
But I mean,
especially, yeah,
I was going to say, on the other hand, getting the
yeah,
music out there has never been easier.
yeah,
Because before you'd have to have a label, pretty much. There'd be a few vanity recordings, but Bandcamp is a blessing for musicians. It's perfect.
absolutely, man.
Well, yeah, I'm glad to be living in a time when there's Bandcamp.
Absolutely good for you, man. Yeah, I will try to get a hold of the owner of Bandcamp because I would like to interview them and see how they end up using that particular business model as opposed to Spotify. I sent a couple emails to some executive in Spotify to see if we'll do an interview, and they never get back to me. I don't know. Probably they don't want to
Yeah,
do that stuff because I will be asking difficult questions, and because that's what I do.
yeah.
So
They don't want
no, they don't
yeah,
want to.
they don't want
Yeah,
difficult questions.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
don't know if you know this or not. Bandcamp, the people that work at Bandcamp right now aren't the ones that started it. Uh,
I
I don't know
see.
what his name is, but the person that started Bandcamp sold out to, I think it was Sony, a couple years back. So it's not the same group of people that started it. Just to let you know.
I got you. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Sony is behind now? But
I believe it was Sony. I'm pretty
Oh,
sure it was Sony
I got it. Yeah.
or a subsidiary.
Yeah. Will be good to, try to interview them and then, clarify the business model, how they break even, how they pick a particular artist. Every so often they do Fridays, Bandcamp, that everything
Mhm.
goes to the artist, which is great. That's the right way to run a business,
Absolutely agree. Again, I'm not even joking when I say it's an absolute blessing for musicians because I have no complaints. It's
Good for you, man.
fantastic.
Yeah. Well, Paul, it
Usually
was
in
very
music,
nice talking. Go ahead. Go ahead.
That's fine.
It was very nice talking
Well, I
to
was
you,
just
Paul,
gonna,
man. Good luck to you. Your music is great. I will keep on listening to your stuff, and then when you have new material, you can always get a hold of me, and we can do a follow-up interview. I'm here to help out, man. So
I really appreciate that, and I also want to say it was an honor being on your show, and I really appreciate it.
thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Make sure that I get your physical address so I can send you some of those CDs.
That will be great. Don't forget to autograph that. That will go in
Okay.
the furniture, so I can listen to stuff. Thanks again, Paul. Good luck to you, and you're a great musician and a great person as well.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Take it easy, man.
Okay, we'll talk soon.
You bet. Thank you.